So now we move on to the next presentation by Sophia Sauralaki. She's a PhD researcher, Department of Religious and Philosophy, SOAS, University of London. And her topic is social media in Islam, sociological and spiritual implication. So Sophia, are you there? Yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay, can you see my screen and can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for having me with you. I'm from London, so right now it's 7-something in the morning. I want to thank very much Mahmoudul Hassan Laskar because he was the person that put me in contact with the conference and he was very patient with me all this time. So quickly, because I have only 10 minutes, so yep, until 57. My research, okay, I'm a PhD researcher and my interest is on social media and Islam, the 21st century. In this presentation, I will talk quickly about how social media shape Islam and what are the sociological and spiritual implications. Now, in Islam, since the social life and the spiritual life is one thing, the distinction between the two is not very easy. So the social media I work with is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. The first element relates with the religious identity of the Muslims today. In the old pattern, we had the traditional knowledge being transferred through family or the local mosque, which now social media have changed that. So they have been outdated as sources of information, and social media is the source of information. Young Muslims and converts as well, because usually converts are being forgotten when we talk about Muslims. They search information, they search knowledge about their religion through social media because it can be much more targeted. So it's knowledge on demand. They don't need to read 10,000 papers until they reach to the surah they need or the hadith they need. And the second element when it comes to knowledge again is the difference between individual and collective. So traditionally Islam is understood as emphasizing on the collective and the individual needs to assimilate, which is a misconception. Historically, it was not like that. So now social media comes back and brings the balance between the two. So the individual Muslim starts feeling that there is value on the individual. I don't need to assimilate. And this happens through social media. The next element is the challenge of authority, which is very interesting because in general, in Islam, it is believed that people do not have, there is no hierarchy. We don't have hierarchy, like in Christianity, for example. But this again is a misconception. There are hierarchies, and there is a difference between someone who is in authority, that means someone who is appointed to be in an authoritative position, an imam or a qadi or any person who has some position. And now social media bring a shift on that and start emphasizing on someone who is in authority. Some microphones are open and that creates some disturbance. So someone who is an authority is someone who is knowledgeable enough and respected enough, and people follow that person. Okay, it can be he or she lately. So this is what social media change, how they change the landscape. They bring someone who is an authority, someone knowledgeable, someone that people willingly follow, contrary to the traditional construct where someone was appointed in a mosque, so you had to accept whatever they were saying and you had to abide with it, and any deviation from their words meant automatically deviation from the religion. So this changes. In a manner, social media make religion in general, but Islam specifically, which is my topic, much more democratic, much more egalitarian. At the same time, social media have offered a voice to the voiceless, to the minorities, being sects within Islam, like Shia, like Sufi, being currents, intellectual currents, like progressive Islam. So traditionally, Sunni Islam was the dominant version of Islam, and when non-Muslims were talking about Islam, we're talking about Sunni Islam, and sometimes a specific sect of Sunni Islam. And this happened because this specific sect had the means, had the money, had the connectivity. But nowadays this changes. So everyone has equal possibility of representation. Again, bringing back some democratization within Islam. So this is when it comes to authority. I still have 5 minutes. I'm very, very, very conscious of the time. We go now to the controversy between social media and mass media. So mass media is the traditional TV, radio, and movies, which traditionally represented Muslims in the darkest colors ever. Now, what social media has offered Muslims is the possibility to turn this representation into actual presentation. So we see Muslim women, and surprisingly, Muslim women from Muslim majority countries. In my research, I try to put equal basis on both Muslim majority and Muslim minority countries. So yeah, Muslim women from Muslim majority countries, they are very active in social media, much more than their male, peers, and they present themselves. There is this tendency to present themselves into their pious, modest way of dressing, which surprisingly, it has been admired and it has been followed. And now we have an entire industry of modest fashion worldwide that sells a lot. So the actual chance of presentation changes the power dynamics. We also have Muslim couples. One of the most successful are from the United Arab Emirates, where they do use social media to present their daily life and present the power dynamics between the couple. So very often the wife is the dominant in the couple, or the wife appears to protect the husband, which again changes the misconception that mass media has spread to the world that, Muslim women are suppressed and Muslim husbands control them. I don't mean that this doesn't happen, and at some societies it does happen, but it's the minority. And societies where this does not happen right now have the possibility, the citizens or the people or the Muslims of these societies, they have the possibility to present their own reality and in a way change this very negative and very problematic narration that mass media has created, which has an impact on society. It has created the big division between what we call the East and the West, and also division within societies where Muslims are minorities, like in France, for example. This is a striking example of how the society is fragmented because of this representation. And that changes through social media. Now I will go to the actual spiritual part, and I have 2 minutes. There is a science or a tendency that we call it online religion. And this covers the online participation in rituals and covers all religions. It's not only about Islam. However, Islam is part of it. Now, in Islam, we have such spiritual practices are the prayers that for us Muslims are obligatory. We need to pray 5 times a day. So usually prayers need to be performed for males in the mosque, for females at home. In 2014, it was the beginning when YouTube started publicizing prayers. Of course, they were not live, they were recorded, but believers could just follow and listen to the khutbah. Khutbah is the preaching at the end of the Friday prayer. In 2019, Khalid al-Fadl in the US started actually giving live prayers where people from all over the world could connect in their Facebook and pray with the Sheikh, which was frowned upon. It was not very widely acceptable, and he had to justify it spiritually. Now, with this happened in 2019. 1 year later, we have the pandemic, where many mosques adopted this model. Now, geography plays a role here. So, for example, in the UK, all mosques automatically adopted all social media to give khutbahs and prayers and classes and anything spiritual. In Canada, for example, they did accept it as a means of communicating prayers. However, they clarified that upon end of the pandemic, this should stop and people should return to the mosque. But this has to do with the numbers of believers in local mosques and how the mosques will be viable or not. Dawah, which is practically communication of the religion or proselytization, we would say here in the West. It's also something that is very active online. However, my time is over and I don't want to take any more time from the next speaker. The conclusion is that social media empower lay believers. They give them the possibility to take responsibility of their religiosity and present themselves and gives a voice to the marginalized. Thank you so much. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer. And yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Sophia. I think that was very interesting presentation. Yeah. Any question from the participants? Sophia, one thing just occurred to me that you were talking about, the use of social media now and how this has increased the democratization process and egalitarianism, given more space to people to interact and also change the very stereotypical image of Islam. I mean, that way, like it has played a positive role. Do you think so? Or do you also find there is some kind of a negative role, that is because people analyze it that way, that they are both sides of the coin.
Okay, yeah, there is always, because we talk about the human factor. Here, the problematic aspect is not about social media, it's about human factor, how humans employ this tool. From my perspective, I see minor negatives on this process, and if anything, people themselves marginalize these negatives. In general, my opinion is that, from my research, is that it's positive. It's really positive. It creates some kind of unrest because people traditionally are used to a different model of religion. So it changes the power dynamics, the authority. However, after this first, unsettled stage, I believe that things will fall in the right place.
Okay, thank you. Any other question or any query from any participant? I think that's all. Thank you so much, Sophia, for joining us and for your presentation. Many female writers have put their